Hey everyone, Goku-san DBZ here, and welcome for part 1 of a 2-part special, Rate the Super for MK11. We're starting out with Johnny Cage and Sonya Blade, and yeah, I chose to go with the movie skins just because of the nostalgia factor. With this said, let's check out Johnny Super. It's been a while since I've seen some of these. Next time will be DLC Character Edition. So with that said, let's get to it. Definitely the movie award is definitely a nice touch, I will say. It definitely hits just right. Let's look at this just one more time. Definitely, it has good pacing, good actions, pretty brutal, and it looks perfect. So with that said, let's check out Sonya's version, shall we? Okay. Yeah, I remember this being reasonably brutal. Ouch. Dang. It's not quite as brutal, but oh yeah, also on the first Super Johnny Cage's, I give it an 8 out of 10 because it has a lot of personality. And with Sonya's, definitely using the turret is a nice touch, and that brutal last step, but overall, I'm going to give Sonya's about between a 6.5 to a 7 out of 10. But yeah, I definitely like Johnny's more. But with that said, let's go on to the next, shall we? So, with that said, on to the next two fighters, which will be, of course, base roster. Any DLC, including Day 1 DLC, will be part of Part 2. So, those two are done. Let's go on next to, well, yeah, I think it's suitable.
Cassie Cage.
Yeah. I think I'll actually go with the Harley Quinn skin. And we'll have her go up against her best friend. Or how about somebody I just don't like in general? Kano.
Kano.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go with this skin. Just because it gives me nostalgia feels.
Special Forces Desert Command.
It's unfortunate about the stupid load times. But with that said, let's see how... I remember Cassie's having quite a beating to it. But with that said, we're gonna do Kano first, just because I want to get his out of the way. Okay, let's see what we got here. Are we being serious right now? Psst. There we go. For the fatal blows. Ouch. That is pretty brutal, but it's nothing too over the top. Personally, I have to give his a 5 out of 10. It's really middle of the road for me personally. But with that said, let's go to Cassie now, which I remember being pretty brutal and honestly pretty awesome. Ouch. Especially this part right here. Hers is definitely better paced overall. I give Cassie's a 7.5 out of 10. It is pretty solid overall in my opinion. With that said, on to the next. So far, Johnny and then Cassie. So far, I think are the best. Next up,
Jackie Briggs.
yeah, I'm gonna use the Spawn skin just because it's awesome. Spiggan's a long-time Spawn fan myself. I think this time around, I want it to be another female character. Yeah, why not? Let's go with Katana.
Wuxi Dragon Grotto.
And here we go now. Jackie and Katana. If I remember correctly, Jackie actually had one of the, I think, cooler supers, female characters in MK11. All I can also say is, looking back, still, it amazes me how gorgeous looking MK11 is. It still looks drop-dead gorgeous. I dare say I actually think I still like the animations better on this over MK1 so far. At least just how overall the characters animate. Some of the backgrounds look better. And MK1, and that's one of the only areas that has it beat. Okay, let's get to it. Yeah, I love how it implements the shield. I'm sorry, but Jackie, in my opinion, so far, I think this is the best super, easily. For me, I give Jackie, for the pace scene and everything in general, I give Jackie's a 9 out of 10. I legit think she easily has one of the best supers in this game, bar none. Now with that said, let's get to Katana. It's not bad, but I'm sorry, I have to give Katanas a 5.5 out of 10. That's just my own personal perspective. With that said, let's go on to the next characters. And next, I think we're gonna go with two old fan favorites to face each other.
Jax.
I'm gonna go with this one just because I like the harken back to MK3. But yeah, we're gonna go to actually two classic MK3 characters in this one. Yeah, that's a little better overall.
Special Forces Desert Command.
Now, if I remember correctly, the supers, I remember, honestly, Cabal's being a pretty solid one, implementing his abilities. Okay, here we go first. Definitely brutal. And pretty good pacing, I think, overall. And it gives you actually a buff, which I think is actually good. Personally, I'm gonna have to give Jax's a 7 out of 10. I actually think it's pretty solid overall, decent. And the pacing is good, really fast paced. And the buff at the end also is definitely quite useful. Okay, now let's go on to, I think, one of the core ones of the base roster. Definitely brutal. Pretty nice ending there. Overall, it's not one of the best, but still, I actually probably have to give, for me, Cabal's Go is about a 7 out of 10 as well, along with Jax. It is a pretty solid overall, decent one. Good pacing, again. It's one of the big things that I like is ones that have very good pacing. That's one of the keys. There's been at least one or two I remember being just taking a little too long, I think, for certain parts of the supers. But with that said, let's go on to the next.
Baraka.
And with my personal favorite skin, as I love Killer Croc. But with Baraka, let's go with a certain someone. And nah.
Collector. Shang Tsung's Island Ruins.
Here we go. And I know a bit unpopular opinion. Personally, I like quite a bit Collector, though he's annoying as heck to fight against when it comes down to it. Still, he's a cool, unique design character, which I actually appreciate. Now with that said, let's get the health where it needs to be. Okay, first, it is good how they implement the Tarkatan abilities. Even though I like it, it's not a great one overall, but it does implement also that in the background. Overall, though, I give Baraka's a 6 out of 10. I would love to give it more, but unfortunately I can't give it a better score than a 6 out of 10, though. Baraka is my top 10 favorite characters in MK11, bar none. Now let's get to one of the, I think, cooler ones and more brutal. Man. Ouch. Yeah, his is a little more brutal, personally, I think. Overall, I'd give Collectors a 7 out of 10. It is better than Baraka's to possibly a 7.5. But with that said, let's go on to the next two. And yeah, we'll stick with and go on to a couple more like classic characters that have been around for a, give or take, a pretty long time for the most part.
Liu Kang.
Even though I love you, I'm going to use Fire God Liu Kang's skin. And, of course, the somebody who has somewhat of a issue, even though they're family. Yeah, we'll keep you on.
Colosseum Beast Pen.
Yeah, in this game, I actually think in the beginning I liked Liu Kang more. Over time, I think I've come to appreciate Kung Lao more in MK11. But also, can I say, I love this Fire God design of Liu Kang, but dang, that Revenant version of Kung Lao just looks awesome. Yes, me and my liking edgy characters. with that said, here we go. And I love the whole implementation of the dragon and dragon punch. Great pacing overall. Great showing his abilities. Honestly, I have to give Liu Kang's a 9 out of 10. Easily a 9 out of 10. So with that said, let's go on to Kung Lao. Implementing the hat like that is pretty awesome. And definitely gives a little more impact in my opinion. Not quite as good, but honestly, I give Kung Lao's between an 8 and an 8.5 out of 10. It is another very solid one. Easily. Now let's go on to a couple of the relatively newer characters in the game, shall we? Only been out really since, what, 2011, I believe?
Scarlet.
And she arguably has one of the coolest supers in the game. Definitely of the base roster is one of the best, in my opinion, of using her abilities. And I think Scarlet, yeah, I'm gonna have Scarlet and Jade. I feel it's the perfect choices. Given the bad blood between them. Actually, I do kind of like this outfit a little more. Now, with that said,
Blue Sea Dragon Brother.
now of these two overall as characters go and playstyle, I'm not the biggest Scarlet fan overall, though I do like her abilities and stuff. The blood magic is pretty awesome. And this ninja costume of hers is pretty awesome. But with that said, let's get on to it. And definitely one of the most brutal supers in the game. I love the whole shape-shifting with the blood. You see, now that is my idea of a superb, almost, dare I say, this is almost perfect, in my opinion. The way it uses her abilities. I hate to say it, but I think Scarlet, for me personally, is between a 9 and a 9.5 out of 10. Just shy of a perfect super, in my opinion. Her super is superb. But with that said, let's go with now Jade. Which I do like the way it implements her ability. Still, it's not... I do like the kip at the end, and it can open up for other combos, that's good. But overall, I'm sorry, I have to give Jade's like a 6 to a 6.5 out of 10. It's one of the weaker ones, unfortunately. Though she has one of the more brutal fatalities in the game, arguably. With that said, let's now go on to a couple of others relatively newer characters in the game. Shall we?
Aaron Black.
Yeah, Aaron Black and of the base characters. Yeah, why not? Aaron Black and Garrus.
Gearus. Sea of Blood.
Definitely two of the tougher fellows in the game. Let's see how this goes overall. Okay. First up, can I just say I absolutely love that dark side skin. There we go. Now this is one of the coolest ones in the game. Ouch. That is just awesome. Brutal, but awesome and badass. Now with that said, even though it is pretty awesome and good, overall I give an 8 out of 10. It's another very solid super in my opinion. Now with that said, let's go on to Garrus' super, which by the way, I think is underrated. This is awesome. With the way it implements his time abilities. Bam! Okay, overall, I have to give Garrus' actually probably also possibly an 8, if not an 8.5 out of 10. He actually has one of the best supers in the game, bar none. And it's a shame he's so underrated. So, with that said, we're down to the last few for the base roster. So let's continue with some of the last good ones.
Kotal Khan.
Yes, now we'll go with Kotal. And Devora. Definitely two classic enemies.
Lost Hive of the Kaitin.
Here we go. And now with the Kaitin, which should be interesting. Definitely one of the more interesting, like, sort of rivalries starting in MKX. And yeah, I'm going to start with her, actually. And here we go. Man. Ouch. It's nice how it implements her wings and legs. Overall, though, I give hers about a 6.5 to a 7 out of 10 range. It's pretty solid overall. But if I remember correctly, our dear Kotal Khan actually has one of the better supers, definitely of the base roster. Ouch. Yeah, it's pretty brutal, actually. Yeah, I give his an 8.5. Definitely one of the better ones in the game, bar none. Now, with that said, it's time for the last of the base roster characters. So, here we go. Next up is the biggie between the two classics.
Sub-Zero.
Here we go.
Scorpion.
This is one of the core ones I think I have, but I just love this classic look. But with that said, let's do it.
Shang Tsung's Island Ruins.
The last of the base roster, And actually, I think I'm going to try to do the DLC characters also. In this, try to do everything in one video rather than divide it up. So with that said, let's get ready for Scorpion Sub-Zero. This is one of the ones I was waiting for the most, because of this classic rivalry between the characters. Okay, time for Sub-Zero. Really good pacing. Sadly, though, it's just not as brutal as I feel it should have been. For me, I give Sub-Zero's like a 6 out of 10. Sadly, it's kind of a letdown because of what they could have done with Sub-Zero's special, or super rather. However, Scorpion's is not as much of a letdown, however. Ouch. Plus the classic get over here. Boom. It's not the greatest, but still it's way better. Honestly, I give Scorpion's an 8 out of 10. It is solid, bar none. But with that said, let's get to the DLC characters now. I'm going to try to save some of the better ones for last of the supers. So far, there has yet to be really a 10 out of 10. There's been one or two 9 out of 10s, solid ones so far, but that's about it. Oh wait, that's right, there is like another base roster character I forgot about. Cetrion is base roster. And also, I haven't done a couple others yet. So let's get them out of the way. Here we go. Cetrion and Raiden. Two gods. But let's do the classic movie version of Raiden. Or nah. Actually, I'm gonna go with Dark Rain just because I love that design better. But with that said, let's have some fun with these.
Black Dragon Fight Club.
Yeah, kind of unusual location, but why not? Time for a Elder God and a former Elder God. And may I add, two of the best supers in the game are right here between these two. This is going to be pretty awesome. Looking forward. But I'm going to do Raiden's first. Here we go. This is pretty brutal. Honestly, I give Raiden's a 9 out of 10. Easily, bar none, one of the best supers in the game. But now, it's time to get, in my opinion, one of the top 5 best supers in the game. I would put his in top 10. Top 5, maybe, maybe not. It's time for you to see, in my opinion, at least a 9.5 out of 10. Arguably one of the absolute best. Here we go. It uses her abilities great, and now Energy Blast. Seriously, that, at least for me, is at least a 9 to a 9.5 out of 10. As legit, a really good super. Bar none, one of the best in the game. It's sad, like, too many people sleep on Cetrion. She's an awesome design character overall. I think she's a bit underrated, personally. With that said, let's go with the next, shall we?
Noob Saibot.
Yeah, this is one of the more classic version noob. Though I like this the most, I think I'll go with the classic design. Now with that said, well, let's have noob go up against, arguably in my opinion, my least favorite character in the game, bar none. Which is, unfortunately, Rambo. Never could get into the character. So with that said, let's get to it.
Rambo. Shirai Ryu Fire Garden.
But I'm going to do Rambo's super first. For obvious reasons, because like with Cetrion, Noob is one of my top 5 favorite supers in the game. I've done it enough to remember pretty well his super. There we go. Here we go. Yeah, I get a movie reference with the explosion at the end. I mean, decent pace, but overall, I give his maybe a 6 out of 10 at best. Sorry. However, now we get to arguably, if not one of my top 3 favorite supers in the game. Here we go. It's brutal and awesome. Great pacing, I like how it uses his abilities. Honestly, I give Noob Saibot's... Yeah. I give Noob Saibot's... probably around a 9.5 out of 10. Just shy of a perfect overall super. It's definitely one of the closest at a 9.5. Okay, with that said, time to go on. And while we're at it, let's do another couple of actual guest characters. RoboCop and the Terminator.
The Terminator. Retro Kid.
Definitely a classic rivalry, if you at all remember back the 80s when there was a RoboCop Terminator comic miniseries, which was pretty awesome actually. Yes, love Retrocade. But with that said, let's get to it. Okay. This is a pretty brutal one. Though I don't like the character, it is actually a really good super. For the brutality, the pacing, and overall enjoyment, I give RoboCop's a 9 out of 10. It is seriously one of the best in the game. Also, RoboCop has one of the best fatalities in the whole game. But let's get to one of the other greats.
Get over here.
I love that. I like how also, I'm going to have to give Terminators also a 9 out of 10. It is seriously a great and funny, as well as pretty brutal. Using his metal head and everything, I think does a great job. So, with that said, let's go on to the next two. Which now, we're gonna go on to probably two of my least favorite DLC characters.
Shiva.
Shiva and Fujin are arguably two of my least favorite. Though as characters, I especially have always liked Fujin. Well, let's...
The Hourglass.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, Shiva actually had a pretty brutal super. Even if it wasn't one of my favorites, still. It has definitely, I think, more impact than some of the other supers in the game. Man. Seriously, that is pretty brutal. Overall, I give it a 7.5 out of 10. Now, with that said, let's do to, I think, one of the cooler supers in the game. How it implements his different weapons. Yeah. Honestly, I give Fujin's super an 8 out of 10 to an 8.5. It's definitely one of the stronger supers. Definitely of the DLC characters.
The Joker.
Yes, Joker and... yeah, I think we'll do Joker and Frost.
Frost.
I like this for being a more classic style costume. This is pretty cool.
Cyberlinkway Assembly.
Frost and Joker. Joker is definitely one of my preferred guest characters, probably my second favorite of the guest characters, gameplay-wise. Frost is, funny enough, one of my top favorite characters in the game. My second favorite female character in the game to play with. So with that said, let's do it. Oops, crap. So you have to be close. Now this is very brutal, but it's not a great super in my opinion. The whole, like, smile thing is a reference to Heath Ledger and stuff. It's not bad, don't get me wrong. I give Joker's probably a 7 out of 10 more for the brutality of it. But let's get to, I think, probably one of the other cooler supers in the game. And no, I didn't actually mean cooler as a pun. Here we go. This one's brutal, but also really cool how it implements the ice. Overall, yeah, I give Frost Super an 8 out of 10 to an 8.5, around that. I'm gonna save like two, in my opinion, two of the best supers for last. So with that said, on to the next.
Sindel. Nightwolf. Shinnok's Bone Temple.
Yeah, I prefer this Revenant version. Look-wise of Nightwolf is way cooler. And Sindel is my favorite female character in the game. She's in my top 5 characters in the game. I mean, she's just awesome. With that said, I'm going to save her for last. Instead, do first Nightwolf. This is pretty brutal. Pretty cool overall, but I give his about a 7.5 out of 10, sadly. Not as cool as you would have expected. It's still not bad, and overall has pretty decent pacing for the most part, and showing abilities, but here we go, one of my favorites. I love how she implements the hair. And then the heels. Okay, I'm gonna be honest. I give Sindel Super gets a 9 out of 10. Maybe it's a biasness of me, and that's fine. And yes, I expect to be biased because she's my favorite female character in Mortal Kombat, period. So with that said, now we just have a couple left to go of DLC characters. So let's, shall we?
Rain.
Rain, and of course, our dear Melina.
Melina. Kronika's Key.
And if I'm correctly, both these characters have great supers. But Rain's is pretty awesome. And I love actually implements Rain in the whole super. It's pretty awesome. And using the Rain like that. Rain super gets an 8.5 easily. Now with that said, let's go into Melina, which has one of the other, I think, best supers in the game of female characters. And it's pretty brutal. I mean, it's practically a fatality. I give hers, honestly, a 7.5, 7.5 out of 10. Not quite as good as a couple of others, but it definitely shows her definite psychotic and brutal nature. I think the super does get that across pretty well. Now, getting towards the end now. It's time. Only 3 characters to go.
Shao Kahn. Shang Tsung.
Yes, two of arguably the biggest badasses in the MK series, and both have great supers. And I will be showing their supers twice, just so you can really see and appreciate them. First, let's look at the brutality of Shao Kahn's. This is awesome. It shows his brutality and his power. Yep, there's a reason I saved these three for last, because these are my top three favorite supers in the game. This is my third favorite super in the whole game. And just so you know, it gets a 10 out of 10. Perfect brutality, it shows what Shao Kahn can do. But it has great pacing and shows his overall power. It is superb. Now with that said, it's time to see my second favorite super in the game, which also gets a 10 out of 10 because it implements his transformation. This is just beautiful. Yeah, like I said, it's a 10 out of 10. It implements showing all the different ninja classic costumes. I love it. It's the perfect way to represent Shang Tsung's transformation ability. Both are brutal and get their point across and represent the powers and abilities of both characters. Now that you know, now you know. Last but not least is my number one favorite super in the game, and from my favorite guest character in the game, bar none.
Spawn.
Yes, I saved Spawn for last, the best. Yeah, this is a great costume, great classic. This is another pretty awesome costume if you ask me. And then there's this one, which is just awesome. But for the super, I'm going to stick with classic original Spawn. And I think we'll have Spawn take it out on somebody who, frankly, I'm kind of irritated by in this game. Don't get me wrong, I like both Love and am annoyed by Cetrion both. And I think the perfect location,
Soul Chamber.
definitely suitable for the two characters. Here we go, bar none. Probably one of the best characters in any fine game of all time. Here we go. Showing his ability with his guns, with the bullet attacks. That reference is awesome from the Violator. Then each of his other things, abilities he's known for. This is literally the perfect representation, I think, super definitely for Spawn. It's brutal, powerful, and just awesome to look at. And very flashy, and I love it. Which is why it gets 11 out of 10. With that said, that is it for looking at my supers, rating them. Hopefully you enjoyed. Let me know below what your personal favorite super is in the game. With that said, I'll see y'all next time.